Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I am not a dog trainer, but these people you see here are. We get together and we discuss a topic. I have to laugh because I said we're going to hit record, and Joyce will jump in 2 seconds later. And there we go. So anyway, um, we get together, we discuss topic, come up some thoughts, some ideas, sometimes some answers, but we always have an interesting discussion. Today's topic is a little more serious than usual. Uh, what we're going to talk about today is the situation that is going on in rescues and how bad it is these days. And I know that this was a topic that Bonnie had talked to Jeff about, and Jeff is going to lead us off today. But I also know that Bonnie wanted to say a little something before we get started. So I'm going to pass it right on to you, Bonnie. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Joel. Um, Jeff posted on Facebook this week about the crisis state of the homeless dog situation, and the comments that followed from his rescue contacts and some shelter workers really brought tears to my eyes. And I started thinking, what can DTC do about it? What can others that we know do about it? And I can't think of anyone more qualified to lead this discussion than Jeff Coltenback, who's been working with rescue groups for years, is a tireless advocate for the dogs. And I am hoping through this discussion we can collectively come up with ways to help. So thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, so I mean, the Facebook post, it was just a lot of built up frustration, and my frustration was specifically geared towards dog owners surrendering their dogs.
Mm.
I won't use the language here because I used bad language on my Facebook post, but that's what I did. Um, the and I the reason the frustration was targeted at dog owners, it's not like catastrophic life events happen, right? And we've talked about this on this forum many times where,
Yes, certainly.
severe illness, death, like there's things that happen in life where people, they're either not around to take care of their dogs or, I mean, they could be placed somewhere where their dog has to be displaced and placed into a shelter or a rescue, right? Those are things that, sure, they contribute to the homeless dog population in the United States, but not, I mean, I don't have statistics, but it just doesn't happen that often.
Hmm.
As far as, and we've talked about strays and spay and neuter and stuff. All that stuff does come into play, but the crux and I guess the crux of my frustration and the target, me targeting a certain type of dog owner are the ones that, for all intents and purposes, they just give up on their dogs.
Hmm.
Like they don't do anything if they have the littlest bit of problem. They just don't care.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say they don't care. Maybe they do. And I'm sure there's situations which we've all experienced that if someone's just a little overwhelmed and they seek help and we help them and they keep their dog. uh, we don't see that. There's more and more owner surrenders with crap excuses for why they're surrendering their dog. And maybe, we talked about this 2.5 years ago, all the COVID puppies, right?
Yes, definitely.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that has something to do with it because they had all the time in the world, but now there's actually real work involved. Like you got to take your dog out. You have to, you have to do things because, and again, my frustration is targeted at the people who just seemingly just aren't putting any effort in and just are opting to dump them. And I thought it was like just here. I thought it was maybe just in North Jersey where I have a lot of my rescue friends. But it's all over the country. People are surrendering their dogs at just these insane rates. So you add that to the already overpopulation issue and the inflow of dogs, and I'm sure it's other animals too, but obviously dogs are, you
Right.
know, kind
Of
of the
course.
throbbing toe and what I see every day. But and it was a boiling point, and I'm pissed off. I'm just going to be honest. I'm pissed off because again, I understand there are unique circumstances where people just can't. I get that. That's not what I was talking about. It's not what I'm talking about. And it's not what pisses me off. What pisses me off is that people are they're just not accountable. Dogs are more disposable than ever. They don't want to do certain things, and they have excuses for why they don't want to do the things that can help them too, which, whether it's management or training or types of training or whatever, the willingness is at an all-time low.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and accountability is just gone. And frankly, if you're a dog owner watching this and this is bothering you, because you just surrendered your dog, then I'm talking to you.
Then good.
If
Yeah.
this isn't bothering you, then you probably doesn't apply, so it's not going to bother you. But if this is bothering you, what I'm saying, good. If you feel like crap, good. I hope you do, because I'm sick of it.
I'd like to ask the panel about that accountability that you were asking about. Obviously the owners have a big part in that, but how much do the shelters have? How much do the shelters have accountability for making sure that they're not overwhelmed, that they're not taking dogs just for the sake of taking dogs? Is there any piece of that that's involved? And I'm throwing that out to everybody. I don't care who comes in on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's separate from where my frustration lies, is that the surrendering aspect of it. So to tie that into your question, if a shelter or a rescue, and they are out there, I'm not disputing that, if a shelter or rescue is purposely not disclosing information to people, then that's contributing to an owner seemingly surrendering their dog back.
Definitely.
But that also doesn't happen all the time. I'm sure it happens. But I mean,
but what I'm more asking, Jeff, is how I fully understand that the owners are accountable, but how accountable are the shelters? How accountable are the shelters for not taking care of this situation, for not keeping track of what's going on, for not I'm sorry, I'm losing it. So I'm going to
fighting for legislation.
Yeah,
and for
exactly.
Money that would help this.
Those are the kinds of things I'm talking about. Yes, Bonnie. Because honestly, I'm pretty angry about this right now, talking about this myself.
Yeah. And some of the comments, which I jotted some of them down, Jeff, because the comments from your rescue people and groups, just, tears came to my eyes, because it was like, but some of them did have some constructive ideas, like apartment complexes and rentals, allowing more dogs and not charging security deposits or monthly fees. The government, somebody else said the government should give out vouchers to people who can't afford veterinary care or food at this time. And one person said that she's helped dogs stay in their homes by giving people the names of trainers to help alleviate some of their reasons for surrendering dogs, which I know all of us do and have done and would do. But so those were constructive ideas, but also, like you were saying, Joel, the accountability from the rescue groups and from the shelters needs to be there too.
It's more of an acknowledgement than an
acknowledgement of the right.
I think that's more what I'm referring to.
Yeah. Is this really known, the amount of the homeless dogs?
And David, before you do, I just want to make sure that Joyce does know how to unmute. I believe it's *9 is what she would do, because she is on the phone. So go right ahead.
Yeah, so all I was going to add is just that, a lot of shelters in my area, especially in New York City, and I'm guessing this kind of thing might, pertain to you, Jeff, as well, is it's good and well that the shelters, rescue people like Jeff can do so much, but that's just it, do so much. What's happening in the New York City area is the shelters are overwhelmed. There's too much dogs. They can only handle so much. And so that, what do they do? So a lot of them, they're saying, I'm sorry, we can't take your dog in. So they're forced to either give it to another rescue or give other options. So like what you were saying, Bonnie, is just the education and trying to get the owners, I guess, basically to, hopefully seek a dog trainer or a behaviorist or something to that effect to help minimize the effect, because it's kind of a whole vicious cycle, whole chain effect.
Yeah, but I think what both Bonnie and I were talking about was more than just the owners being accountable for society being accountable. I think is
Well,
really
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a whole
Right.
chain thing, but right.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it starts with the owner, obviously, like Jeff was saying. That's that. But then it just,
Yeah.
unfortunately, just transfers on down the line.
I'm not disputing these other points that everyone brings up. I was just alluding to the fact of my frustration on my
No,
Facebook post was
fully
geared
understood.
specifically towards people who just are not willing and not accountable. I mean,
Yeah.
and I have and it's probably because of a few situations that I recently went through. One, I'm still going through that I actually have to get the dog out of the home. And I can't even talk about it right now until I have the dog in my care. Once the dog is in my care, I mean, the text exchange between me and, for lack of owner, can't even say that. I mean, it was like, I don't have violent thoughts too often. I have been lately. I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky guy. Like, I get pissed off and I talk, I say curse words and stuff. I don't have many violent thoughts. I have lately.
I'm from the Bronx. I got them all the time.
Yeah.
Listen, just here's what I can say for a minute. And I'm sure I mentioned this back in the day. I don't know how feasible it is, but my whole idea has been mandatory chip signed to somebody who takes the responsibility of the dog, right? And if they want to dump, right, and return it, then they have to pay a daily fee to the shelter or rescue until that shelter or rescue places the dog again. Why should the financial aspect be always stuck back to the shelter or the rescue? These people made a commitment to the dog. They're not going to hold up their end of the bargain, fine, for whatever the reason, because as we know, there are numerous reasons that people do this. But if you're at least going to pay for that dog's upkeep until it gets rehomed, you're having some degree of responsibility. So I think that would work. Shelters don't make people pay every day for bringing dogs back. It's too easy to dump it back. It's too easy to drop it off. It needs to be harder. So when I said this to somebody who was smarter than I, they said, they're not going to bring it back. They're going to let it loose in the street.
Sure.
And I said, well, that's the reason for my mandatory chipping, so that if let's say you had to return a dog to rescue or shelter, the daily fee would be $40 a day, because cleaning, feeding, all the stuff, medical, $40 a day. That's a lot of money, but it's not that much. I mean, what do the rescue people have to invest in time and effort and all that? $40 a day. If you let the dog loose in the street, we will find this dog. We will scan the dog, and we will knock on your door and say that $40 a day is $80 a day now, because you were an asshole and let the dog loose in the street to get killed by a car or who knows what terrible thing. So you're going to be financially punished for doing what you did. Now it gets a little complicated, because there are a lot of people who would say, well, my name was connected to the chip, but I found a home for this dog furthermore to somebody else who didn't register the dog to them. And that's when they start the blame game. It wasn't me, it was this guy. And I would say, well, if the guy didn't, tell us who he was, it's like ratting out the person. then we'll go knock on his door. And even though we have from you on your word that this is the person who cut the dog out in the street, so he's going to be the guy who's going to be responsible. We will garnish your pay and all the rest of the stuff that they would do if you tried to be a deadbeat dad on a kid, if you tried to abandon a car on the side of the highway, which has a VIN number, and they're going to drag it over and you're going to get a phone call. You did not get away with leaving the car and abandoning it with no responsibility. They're going to get you. If we can tie the dogs to these people, now we may have far less adoptions, and maybe we need far less adoptions because, like Jeff says, too many people get dogs, but they don't really care. It's just an object. It's not a life. It's not family. It's I want that one. I want that one. That one's bigger. Yeah, I like this color. They have all the wrong reasons that they get these dogs in the first place. And then when they're unsatisfied, they just want to relinquish with no responsibility. There has to be a responsibility tied to you from the day one. This is a serious adoption. You can't do this to go adopt a baby and a week later say, cries all day, I'm bringing him back. It ain't happened. So why is it so different in this country where we're considered humane and thoughtful that it's not a very similar responsibility with the same sort of whatever the consequences
accountability.
Yeah. I mean, but I would say the only way to do it is the shelter's happy to adopt dogs out. I mean, you're happy when one leaves you and you hope for the best. But a lot of times, the person who's taking it, they give you a few $100. It doesn't mean that much to them. If they thought that, there's more to this than you giving me some money over this live puppy or cat or whatever it is, you are responsible in every which way for this. I mean, we could talk about medical in here because, that's one of the, I think, a big reason that a lot of people ultimately have to relinquish their animals, people who love them, who would be accountable. But when you go to the animal hospital because you got an emergency and we're talking about 20 grand and you don't have it. Yeah. You don't have it. And it's about whether or not you're going to pay your rent, feed your kids, or take care of the dog. You don't have it. What are you going to do? Yeah. Now, that's a bad situation. Maybe they needed to think about that up front. Why didn't you get pet insurance? I couldn't afford it as part of my monthly bills, maybe. Well, maybe you couldn't afford a dog. I think you're a nice person. You want to give a homeless dog a home, but maybe you can't. Your heart's in the right place, but your wallet's not. And you got to think about the long term. Can you do this? If you can't do it, don't do it. Too many, I've had people come to me and say, I read your book. I think you don't like dogs. I'm like, really? You think I don't like dogs? Well, you have a whole lot of reasons why not to get a dog. I'm like, yeah, I do. I got a whole lot of reasons why you shouldn't get one, because you're not going to put the time, the effort, and you're not going to be responsible, so you shouldn't have one. It's not me. I love dogs. That's why I'm saying you shouldn't probably have one, because you're not up for it. And you think you are, but, so I'm hoping I'm tapping your thing, Jeff, like I'm getting to.
You are, but I think you're also missing another demographic. Like, this isn't people who adopt dogs only. People who buy dogs are also giving up on them.
Yeah,
further contributing to the homeless population, right? Because conventional wisdom is, and I know people who spend big bucks on a dog. They usually spend big bucks on a trainer, and they usually love their dog. You're like really into a certain breed or something, right? But it's not just people who adopt that are resurrendering their dogs. It's just people, anyone surrendering their dog for the BS excuses. That's really, and that was the crux of my post was. I half jokingly said I have a solution to solve 50% of the homeless population. And I wrote in big bold letters, keep your effing dogs. Like that was my solution, right? Because it's not just people who adopt, it's people who are buying dogs or getting them from so-and-so. Everyone who surrenders a dog for the BS excuses, if that stops, it helps a lot, because, and like everybody talked about, there's a lot of different solutions, but I mean, it's the people that just, what are you teaching your kids out there? When life gets a little hard, just give up on whatever it is.
Right. They're right.
Oh, wait, this is hard? We'll just get rid of it.
Well, but that's a whole nother conversation because, that's not just for dogs. Joyce, did you want to say anything? Can you say anything? I think it's *9.
And I'm asking her to unmute.
That's not going to do anything. She's not going to see it.
Okay.
She's on the phone.
Okay.
What if that's not Joyce?
We're getting Zoom bombed. Okay. All right, back to the conversation. I guess for right now that's not going to happen.
The other underlying thread I think Steve mentioned of where did this pipeline of dogs from the South come up, and how much is that adding to, like, would the rescue groups have so many dogs to adopt out if there wasn't this, bringing the dogs up from the South, and then, usually hounds that are not that great for city folks to have, or most people to have. And how does that play into the whole proliferation of homeless dogs? And what can be done about that?
I say follow the money.
Mm-hmm. Joyce, it's *6. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
Follow the money. Listen, when I'm older than all of you guys, but when I was a kid and there was the TV guide, right? The old little TV guide, and that every week, North Shore Animal.
Oh, there's.
Yes, Joyce, you're unmuted. Okay.
It's like, hey, bring us your unwanted puppies for money. We'll pay you for those puppies because they would spin around and make more, profit. What's happening down south, my guess is the same thing. Some guy with one floating neuron brings in a box of puppies. They give him $100, and they then get $100 for every single puppy that gets put in a truck that gets shipped up north. So if you say to them, hey, you're a rescue, you're not supposed to be making money. Oh, we're not making any money, but this is how we survive. Well, if you keep paying that guy instead of him having to pay you when he brings the puppies in, it's like, we're not taking your box of puppies, buddy. For every one of these puppies, you got to pay $40 a day until we find a spot for them and they get adopted out. And you'll see how many less puppies get surrendered down there, so there's less to ship. You got to cut it off somewhere. Why do they keep coming up with puppies if they're making no money? This is just stray female dogs walking around. I'm not saying there's none of that. You go to some depressed areas and they're not taking care of their dogs and all that. But what about the shelters? Have many of them trap, neuter, and release programs for cats, right? Why don't they, when I was a kid, they had a dog catcher. There was even a wagon and everything. It was ugly, right? Pick up the dog. It's in the street. It's unspayed. Bring it to the spay clinic, spay it, and kick it back out into the street. At least it's not going to make more puppies. Right. If it doesn't belong to anybody, or even if it does, but they're not taking care of it, suck it up. You guys get the surgery done, put it back in the street, let it go find its home again, like that. Like, don't wait. Collect them up and sterilize them so there's less of this. If that's what the problem is. Hey, Joyce.
Hey, sorry, my dogs are running amok. We just got to the campground and they're like, whoa!
Did you want to add something, Joyce?
The conversation it's a tough conversation to have.
Yeah.
Because nothing is going to change unless there becomes legislation like some has been talked about where dogs are required to have chips, and then whoever breeds them is responsible for their, they can trace it back to the breeder. They can trace it at multi-levels so that whoever, say it comes from a breeder, the breeder's on the chip, whoever bought that dog is on the chip, that person gives that dog away or sells that dog secondary, that ends up on the chip. There's a trail so that there's a responsibility trail. And that's not going to happen unless there's legislation enacted to make this happen. Like up north, licensing was big. It was tied to a rabies tag. We don't have that down here. There's absolutely no requirement that anybody licenses their dogs. There's no requirement, that for neutering and spaying spaying them. So, you know, I would say we have a bigger problem in the South just because the government is a bunch of good old boys that don't want to, you know, step on anybody's rights. And like, but don't dogs have rights? You know, it's like until we start to get to the point where we understand these are sentient beings, they have feelings, emotions, and they have rights. And they have a right to have a home because that's what they're meant for, is to be living with human beings. So until we look at what really, you know, dogs are really for, and we put, you know, we give them their, you know, basically give them their rights for being that, you know, being that type of a creature, we're going to continue to have this problem because people think they have the right to do whatever they want with a dog. It doesn't matter whether it's keeping it outside and not giving it enough shelter, water, food because that's my dog and I can do whatever I want with it, or letting it run around the mountains. I mean, oh my God, the dogs run around loose around the mountains because, oh my God, it's a dog. It needs to be free. You know, and breeding, of course, they're meant to breed. Of course, they're supposed to breed. You know, I mean, it's just the mentality down here is crazy. It's ridiculous. And unless the government steps in and says, this is the only way we're going to control the population, by enacting legislation and keeping everybody responsible. And yes, charging fees, lots of money. If you're a breeder and your puppy ends up in a shelter, you're going to have to pay. You bred that dog. You're the one who had that puppy. You know, that's your fault for selling that dog to somebody that wasn't responsible and having a contract and following up with them to make sure that that puppy stayed in that home through their entire life. I mean, I'm passionate about this issue too. And I just, you know, but the responsibility has to lie. I don't like to get on the shelters because I think they already have such a crappy job. And they don't have the support they need, and they don't have the funding they need. And they got a lot of pressure from the public that's unrealistic, like to be a no-kill facility. I think that is the most ridiculous thought we've ever come up with. Let's keep dogs for 300, 400 days in a shelter because we're a no-kill facility. That's brilliant. You know, that dog is definitely adoptable after 400 days of, you know, confinement in a loud, noisy, stressful environment.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, we have a ton of problems that there's no one solution to, but until we break it down and make people who start the process responsible, the breeders, and yeah, sure, that, you know, rescues and shelters have a responsibility too, but again, how are they supposed to vet every single person that comes in to adopt a dog if they're a no-kill facility and they're trying to get dogs out and give them a chance? It's impossible. So, you know, but I think if we, you know, definitely start with anybody breeding dogs, anybody, not just professional breeders, but these darn backyard breeders, anybody is caught, you know, you breed, you list your puppies for sale, you're a breeder, 1 litter a year, you're a breeder, and you're responsible for every one of those puppies. And here's what you have to do. And if you don't do that, here's the fines that you're going to receive for not doing that. And, you know, but then there's also the responsibility of the public, which is just, you know, that's the maddening side. These people spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 on a dog that's a mutt. Oh, I call myself a doodle, you know, and it's and it's worth all this money, and it's a special dog, and you know, they're breeding these now. They're breeding what? You know, so now we have these new breeds that people are thinking are really awesome. I mean, I have this ridiculously colored bulldog in my house right now. She has a Dudley nose. She's the color of an Australian Shepherd, and she's out of her freaking mind. She doesn't act like a bulldog at all. Her mind is so scrambled. I think she has ADD. And I think, you know, it's like I see these dogs that people are creating having worse behavior problems than I ever noticed in just the standard breed when people were, you know, when the breeders are breeding just the real colors and stuff. So, I mean, we have a massive problem on so many sides, and I don't think it's a one-pronged solution. And I think it's just going to take a lot of people stepping up and keep screaming it like Jeff is. Keep putting it out there. Keep screaming it.
That kind of brings me to what I think is probably our last point, which is what Bonnie started with, which is what can the 6 of us do about this?
Well, keep screaming. Keep
right.
posting,
And if
you know.
if I just want to throw this out and ask a question, if you know, we have several thousand dog trainers on our list from way back that came to our webinars that, you know about us, you know, what, and, you know, and you all don't have to answer me now, but what would be the thing that we could focus on and get something done Is it legislation? Is it trainers offering their services to help people that adopt? And, you know, that's something that I would throw out to you all to help me with, to start something and to at least tackle it at some one prong of this multi-pronged issue.
So I'm gonna give everyone. Make sure I'm gonna give everyone's services away for free right now. You're all gonna hate me. One thing that's possible, and again, obviously, it's just a few of us, and we're probably doing this a lot of the time anyway, just by talking to people on the phone, right?
Exactly.
Giving them a couple of suggestions to kind of stop
Mhm.
the bleeding, so to speak. And I haven't done it in a while just because the need hasn't arisen or I haven't been contacted about it. But I do work with a few rescues where I do give them discounted virtual consults, which has helped stop the bleeding in a lot of situations. I also, in the past, which this is where I'm going with this, is, and this is maybe just something for you guys to toss around in your local communities, is if you hook up with a rescue or a shelter and say, hey, look, I want to do a Zoom once a month, just a 1 hour Zoom on basic dog care and training. And we can touch on the topics, the
Sounds like a
crappy
great
things,
idea.
the crappy excuses why people are getting rid of their dogs, like housebreaking, jumping. They don't want to crate train it. Maybe there's some conflict between the dogs and they don't want to separate. Like
Yeah.
we could talk, you know what I mean? And again, I don't know if it's a monthly thing or maybe every couple of months you have like a group Zoom with you tell the rescue they can invite all their adoptees. It's a short, we don't have to go anywhere. It's something we could do virtually. It's something that, if we can change, because sometimes as you guys know, sometimes we have to sell solutions to people.
Mm-hmm.
So, that might help, but the people that just don't care, I don't know. I don't know how you can make someone feel love and feel willingness and feel accountability. I don't know how you fix that.
That's them. Listen, ever since, and we could thank Bonnie and Joel for this. And shockingly, my phone should be probably ringing like 10 times a day for Zoom appointments, but it's not. Since I started the Zooms, it's like, how is it 3 years already now? Would you say, like,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
I took my $300 house call. You can curse me out for that dollar amount if you like, but I've been working a lot of years. I felt like I deserved that money. I didn't have
Yeah.
it's not an hour. I'd stay however long I want. But I converted that $300 house call into pay me any dollar amount for a Zoom call, and I will try to help you with whatever problem you have.
Mhm.
And I get actually people complain, you got to give me a dollar amount. I'm like, I haven't given a dollar amount in 3 years. I'm not a dollar amount. If you send me $5, I'm not going to call you up and say you didn't send me enough. Dollar, I mean it. So I'm not doing it once a month. I'm doing anytime somebody calls me for whatever their problem is. Now, I can't handle the dog. I'm not swearing anything to them. I'm also not charging them a boatload of money, but I'm
Yeah.
giving them, like, 50 years of experience from any dollar amount. And if I could help them keep their dog and solve some of their problem, like you say, can I stop the bleeding and
Yeah.
get them interested in the marathon that dog training really is, and point them in some direction that says, look, there's some amazing, like, free YouTube videos. There's a lot of like stuff out there. I'm not going to be banging them financially. They got somebody they can call that's been around. I didn't jump out of nowhere, and I'm going to charge them any dollar. Now, maybe not everybody could afford to do that. I can't. I'm not rich, but I didn't get into this business to get rich. That wasn't my goal. So if I'm going to be helpful, it's got to be about the money for me. It's got to be about the service. So been doing it. I'm still doing it. I think the lowest, just so you know, I think the lowest dollar amount anybody ever sent me was $50. And I remember that Zoom call being really short, and it didn't matter. It was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Also can't forget when a lady sent me a check for a Zoom call for $1,000. That lady I called,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, I can't cash this. I did a Zoom call. She said, you said pay whatever works for me. I said, that's what I said. She goes, this works for me. And then she said the most beautiful thing, which was, you changed my life. Cash.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
What I'm saying to you is that I have learned that a lot of people that we work for, they care enough. They will do the best they can. And if we don't make it unaffordable for them to get the help, we'll be helpful. Helpful. This is the way I can do it. I'm not out there with, I'm working my knees to death with a leash in my hand, but I sure am spending any amount of time necessary with whole families on Zoom, getting everybody on the same page, and hopefully getting them to and I get beautiful return calls. Wow, things are way different than they were a week ago. Thank you so
Great.
much. That means a lot to me.
Of
More than
course.
damn money.
Yeah.
Right. And yet I'm telling you, people don't get all chintzy with you just because you're offering them that. They appreciate it.
Sure.
And if you can't afford it, fine. I'm not trying to get your money. I need you to call me if you got a problem. I want you to keep your dog. So that's my way. I don't guess everybody's not going to be playing that game, but you know what? It's been working for me, and it's been working for a lot of people that I get to help. Not as many as I would have thought. I would have sworn that my phone, with that being out there, this guy's doing this for any dollar amount. I would have thought I'd be busy all damn day, which would be fine with me. I'm sitting on my ass anyway. But it's not that way. Not that many people, when I tell them that I'm doing it this way, they flip out. Seriously, I need a dollar amount. I'm not giving it to you. Pay me anything. I'm not kidding. I'm not going to give you a dollar amount. If you send me nothing, I'm still going to service you. So it is what I do for a living. So, it would be nice if you send me something, but I'm not going to tell you how much, and I'm not going to bitch no matter how much or little it is.
Yep.
That's the way I've been approaching it. I don't know everybody's going to do it that way, but that's honestly, since the Zoom thing, I'm thinking I'm sitting on my chair, and if I could help people, then why not do that?
Sure.
Yeah.
If you got people who can't afford you and you want me to talk to them, give them my contact information, any dollar amount. That's what I'm going to say. I have it out there.
Okay.
If you're a person out there and you need help, you can just, contact me. I'll help you. If you're a dog trainer and you got people that can't afford your fee and you're not willing to, you're too busy or whatever it is, give them my contact information. I'll fit them in my schedule and I will help them as best I can. And if they need handling, I'll send them back to you. I'm not going to steal your client. Although I will say this, there's a difference between a referral and a dump. So you send me a referral, I'm thrilled to help them. I don't care what the problem is. But there are some folks that I would reach my hand through the phone and choke them. I am from the Bronx. Not a
Joyce,
referral. Some of these
Okay.
people, I grabbed him by the
Well-
neck because he did this, and I'm like, don't make me stick my hand through the phone because I'll grab you by the damn neck in about a second. It's like I can't take those. Those. If they're going to
Yep.
hurt me, I'm going to get in my car and drive somewhere. Don't get me in trouble. So any referral I'll take, but don't dump the people.
Okay. We
All
will.
right.
These people.
And Joyce, did you want to say something? I
No,
thought you
man.
did. Okay.
You're
No.
good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Okay.
I
Just
think that
listening,
that's a
that's
good place
amazing.
to leave it. And what I was going to say is that if there are any trainers out there who want to follow any of the things that we talked about, every little bit helps. And if you are a dog owner and you know a trainer and you want to tell them about what we've been talking about, please do, because again, any little bit helps.
Yes.
And like a lot of things, it can be overwhelming, but the more people who get involved, the less overwhelming it gets. So hopefully let's get a lot of people involved in this. Let's get a lot of people stopping the bleeding, and hopefully we'll get to the point where there isn't any more bleeding. So with that, I really want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank everybody for having a really, really interesting conversation about this. I know we had a little bit of fun with it, but it is a really serious topic, and I am really, really glad that we discussed it.
And
So,
very glad, Jeff, that you did that post because it inspired me, and you know, and I see everyone else here. So thank you.
Indeed. Indeed. So I also want to thank everybody here who's watching. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, and please give a thumbs up for this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot, folks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.